and welcome to Expert Talks. I'm Agathe Ducar. Today I'm joined by Tina Amirtha, who will give us some clarity on permit-to-work processes, risk associated with it, and solutions. If you have any questions, please leave us a comment. Tina, thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
Great. So, Tina, your background is in engineering and operations, and you've worked closely with many of the biggest industrial companies your entire career, developing solutions on operational excellence. At Wolters Kluwer Enablon, your focus has been on permit to work.
That's right.
So, as I understand, there are all kinds of permits in many different industries that are needed for compliance reasons. Construction permits, environmental permits. So what kind of permits are we talking about when we say permit to work?
Yeah, that's a great question. In general, permit to work speaks to a permit that ensures that whenever hazardous work needs to take place in an industrial environment, that working location and the task itself is assessed for risk just before the work commences, so that the people undertaking the task understand the initial risk. And from that, the team can start identifying and putting in place available controls to bring that initial risk down. So an example would be if someone on an industrial site needed to put up scaffolding to prepare for a larger maintenance task in the near future. One of the immediate hazards of erecting that scaffolding would be working from height. So at one point in time, a worker would need to work from height and eventually need to lift something at height with a crane. That specific hazard is lifting operations.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately one of the top sources of incidents.
Right. So when the risk of this lifting operation is known, when that hazard is known, then that permit team can make sure that the right controls are in place to bring that risk of lifting operations down.
Thank you for that example. It makes it easier to understand. You've also mentioned a situation where a cold permit is created. So what are some other typical types of work permit then?
Yeah, there are several kinds of permits in the permit to work process that are typically administered. And that's based on historical standards and regulation. For example, hot work permits are used to meet the requirements of major process safety management frameworks, like OSHA's Process Safety Management Standard. And other common types of work permits are confined space entry, cold work, and breaking containment. These are typically and historically found in oil and gas operations and also in other industrial settings as well.
Yeah, and in these industries, the risk can ramp up pretty quickly. Can you elaborate a bit more on what you saw could happen when a permit to work process is not followed?
Right. So when a permit to work process isn't followed, events that are risky and result in harm to people and systems can happen in the field. People will get hurt, lives can be lost as well. And as I've mentioned, this was the reason that industry standards have been created. And really, what does happen when that permit to work process fails? Well, communication breaks down. Maybe the process is way too complex. And incidents happen because of a few different things. For example, there's a lack of understanding of hazards. There's a failure to ensure that controls are in place. There are inadequately trained personnel, conflicting work activities. There's no feedback cycle on the effectiveness of the permit to work process. And safe work practices might go undocumented altogether on the site. So all of these together can lead to a communication breakdown and lead to incidents if a permit to work process is not followed.
Wow, that gives us a lot to think about. Thank you so much for guiding us through permit to work processes and solutions to avoid incidents. And thank you all for watching Expert Talks. Stay tuned for more insight on industry topics, including how to prevent incidents before they happen by connecting EHS and operational risk data.